chairperson, fellow speakers and guests. The Mandela effect. So, the Mandela effect refers to a situation in which a large mass of people believes an event occurred when it did not. The term originated in 2009 by a self-prescribed paranormal researcher, Fiona Broome, after she discovered that she believed that Nelson Mandela had died in the 1980s, rather than at the time he was still alive, didn't die until 2013. Now, as Broome began to talk to other people about her memories, she learned that she was not alone. Others seemed to remember seeing news coverage of his death, as well as a speech that was given by his widow. So, what might be some other sort of examples of this that we've come across? Well, in the 1937 cartoon Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the evil queen looks at herself in the mirror, and we all know how it goes. She says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" We all remember that. That's wrong. She doesn't say that at all. She says, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" So that's a sort of a strange situation where a lot of people believe it was mirror, mirror, but you can watch the film, they can see for themselves. So, not quite sure what's going on there. Something else, again, a lot of these tend to be from sort of popular sort of culture because it's something that people appear to be sort of widely aware of. So, from Star Wars, remember the android C-3PO, completely gold android waddling around. It appeared in 9 films. Now, if you ask people what colour he was, they'd say, well, he was gold. He was actually from the right leg, the right knee down. I say he, I'm assuming there's sort of gender here of an android, excuse me. But his knee from that was silver, basically, and his foot was silver. And again, it's one of these things like, that doesn't sound strange. Of course, you Google pictures of him, and yeah, sure enough, he's got a silver leg. So it's a kind of a strange one, but most of the shots of him, in all fairness, were from sort of the torso or the head up. And also the sort of definition of the 1970s and 1980s films weren't brilliant, so you could be sort of forgiven that it all kind of blended into one for that. Something else, all about the Monopoly man on the cover of the Monopoly board game. So there he is, he's got a suit, he's got a top hat on, got a monocle, he's got a cane, and he's always got sort of some jolly sort of pose like this sort of thing. A bit of a bigger smile than I've got on. But he doesn't wear a monocle at all. And this is something that, again, a lot of people sort of, for some reason, it's kind of gone into people's knowledge of, yes, of course he's got a monocle, but he hasn't. And the one that really got me was back to Snow White again. And I think I discovered this myself. I can't find any reference to it onto the net, so maybe it's just me, I don't know, but we'll find out. So, we've got the Seven Dwarfs and we've got their famous song, haven't we? Where they go, hi-ho! Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go, do-do-do-do, etc., etc. We know how that song goes. And also, if you type it into Google, so if you put in hi-ho, hi, hi-ho, hi-ho, it will auto-complete for you and say off to work we go. So Google knows it's that, we know it's that, it's wrong. It's actually, it's home from work we go, and when I heard this, I thought, that's not right, that can't possibly be. I've been singing it my entire life as a small child, as it's off to work we go, everybody sings that, this can't be right. Went through sort of YouTube, it was quite difficult actually to find a clip, but I did find a clip, and sure enough, it's home from work we go. Which, let's face it, makes sense. Who on earth is happy about going to work and whistling and singing about it? It doesn't make any sense at all. They're coming home from work. Of course, absolute perfect sense. So it does sort of make sense when you think about it, but I just could not get my head around it. And even now, I still feel kind of a little bit strange that I always believed it was off to work we go, and it wasn't. So, what causes these incorrect memories? And even stranger, why do we seem to share these false memories with others? Well, there's been quite a few theories out there. Nothing's been actually sort of a definitive sort of solution to it. Some people believe that there's sort of dual realities that are colliding and splitting up. So some of us are brought up with a reality where it was off to work we go, and others with home to work. And that's got quite a lot of legs because it sounds sort of quite dramatic. It sounds quite exciting that there might be different realities. So there are a lot of people sort of clinging on to that, and also we can't actually prove that it's false either, annoyingly. So that's what some people believe. Another one is false memories. So when we recall memories, rather than remembering things perfectly, they're influenced to the point that they can eventually become incorrect. So in this way, our memory isn't, it can't be sort of relied on, it's not infallible. Another possible theory is, honestly, I promise the word does exist, confabulation. And it is when your brain fills in gaps that are missing in your memories to make more sense of them. So if you're recalling sort of information and thinking, oh, that doesn't quite make sense, your brain may automatically fill in those gaps so it makes more sense to you. It isn't sort of lying per se, because you're not necessarily that much aware of it, but you're just rather remembering details that just didn't happen. It says here confabulation tends to increase with age, so you need an excuse for misleading post-event information. So information that you learn after an event can change the memory of the event itself. So this includes sort of subtle information of the event, and it also helps to explain why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. So priming. Now, priming describes the sort of factors leading up to an event that affects our perception of the actual event itself. It's also called sort of suggestibility and presupposition. So priming is the difference between asking how short the person is versus how tall they are. So already the question is sort of loaded there and obviously affects the response. Saying, did you see the black car instead of did you see a black car, makes a subtle suggestion that influences the response and memory. So if I gave you a list of words, for instance, so these words are piano, oboe, viola, clarinet, flute, trumpet and xylophone, and if I then perhaps we gave it a few minutes, did it perhaps at the beginning of the talk, gave you a few minutes to think about it, and then I asked you about words from this list, I might say, okay, who can remember the word clarinet? And there might be somebody who perhaps as I was reading the words out, it struck a chord with them because they used to play the clarinet. So it might be, yeah, I can remember Simon saying that, definitely. And a few others might as well. That's fine, I have very good memories, brilliant. If I said, who remembers me saying the word giraffe? You're going to go, well, that doesn't sound feasible. I don't think he said the word giraffe. I mean, he gave us a list there of musical instruments. I gave you a list of words, didn't give you a list of musical instruments. You decided that it was a list of musical instruments because they are essentially all musical instruments. But however, so if I give you the word giraffe, you're then going to think, well, that's extremely unlikely to be there. If I then gave you the word violin, you're going to think, well, can't really remember him saying that. Maybe he did. I mean, it's feasible. All the others were musical instruments, so if he had said violin, then that would sort of make sense. And somebody might say, yeah, I think he did, and put the hand up. And of course, then we've also got sort of peer pressure. So somebody who's wavering, somebody else puts their hand up and said, yeah, he said violin. They'll put their hand up and say, yeah, I heard that. And with a group of perhaps this size, even if we only got sort of 2 or 3 people sticking their hands up and saying, yeah, I think I heard him say violin, that's still quite a significant number. And of course, I didn't say it at all. So we have people there saying, yeah, I definitely heard something that you didn't hear at all. So perhaps maybe priming is it could be possibly one of the explanations here. And perhaps it understands a little better how somebody could make a mistake of thinking that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s. So for instance, he was imprisoned for life. So essentially people might expect him to die in prison. He spent 27 years behind bars in total, which is obviously an extremely long time. Also through most of the 80s he was in prison, so again it's a big chunk out of people's lives, and when they think of him they remember him being in prison. He faced the death penalty at one point, perhaps that went through, who knows. He did give a famous speech in which he said that he was ready to die for his cause, so again that sort of ties in with the whole sort of death thing. Dozens in his prison were beaten or even killed as well, so it wouldn't be unfeasible to think that could have happened to him. How people could miss that he was actually the president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999, I can't explain. But I think that with the previous mentioned explanations, certain groups of people who may be, so we should say, a little bit more suggestible than others, then you can see how perhaps that would account for some more sort of bizarre examples of the Mandela effect.